All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you again for joining us for our Research to Operations to Research webinar series for CIROH. Today, we have the honor of hearing from Dr. Jorge Brenner, who is the Executive Director of Gulf of America Coastal Observing System, Ocean Observing System. So, Jorge, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Karen. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, Jorge Brenner. It's my pleasure to be here and follow the invitation from Steve and the CIROH team and provide this presentation, which is an introduction to GCOOS. GCOOS, it's a member of the CIROH CI Consortium, and we also have a project funded by CIROH that I'll share more details with you throughout my presentation. But for now, let me share about me. I've been with GCOOS for 4.5 years. I basically started with our current funding cycle from the National Ocean Service at NOAA. I'll explain that a little bit more to you. I sit in Houston, Texas. Most of the GCOOS staff, it's at the university in College Station, Texas A&M, College Station, Texas. But we have also staff throughout other states in the Gulf region, all the way to Florida. We're about a team of about 15 people at GCOOS. So GCOOS, our mission is to provide on-demand information about the Gulf coastal and ocean marine waters that it's accurate and reliable, that benefits all the things that we care about the Gulf, the people, the environment, and the economy of the Gulf. We used to be named formerly Gulf of Mexico Coastal Ocean Observing System. We're now Gulf of America Coastal Ocean Observing System. We're one of the 11 certified by NOAA regional associations of the U.S. Integrated Ocean Observing System that is hosted at National Ocean Service. This certification comes to us on also on 5-year basis, and we renew our certification about 3 or 4 years ago. That's probably coming up soon to us as well. With this, I want to tell you that our work is to enable funding from federal funds, primarily NOAA, National Ocean Service, but also from other federal partners and other funding institutions to maintain observations throughout the Gulf 5 states. Not all of our data is semi or real time, but a good amount of the data that would take most of our operation on a daily basis comes on that fashion. And that's why we are a data center that maintain that operation together with a network of KPIs of our projects that maintain the observations throughout coastal and marine regions in the Gulf. We're also hosted at Texas A&M in College Station, where we land our federal funding and where that funding is managed. But GCOOS, it's also a non-for-profit organization that it's governed by a board. We have 17 board members of experts of 4 different sectors: government sector, academic sector, outreach and education, and private industry and private sector. All of those 17 people work with me and the staff in providing guidance to GCOOS throughout the life and the different projects that we maintain. I mentioned before that our funding primarily comes from National Ocean Service of NOAA, part of the National Integrated Ocean Observing System. But and there are multiple projects that they maintain. But also our primary funding comes from appropriated funds. So we are a regional line at the National Ocean Service budget that Congress appropriates on an annual basis our funding based on those 5-year cycles that I mentioned before. But again, not uniquely funded by NOAA. We're also having other federal agencies supporting GCOOS and we supporting their needs, their data needs. We also, as I mentioned before, we're also a recipient of funding from CIROH as one of the projects that I'll explain. We are governed by a strategic plan that we put together every 5 or 6 years. The current plan will lapse at the end of this year. We're getting ready to finalize a review of that plan that will definitely be published next year in 2026. But our primary focus resides in 4 different areas, and they are supported by 4 other cross-cutting teams. So those areas are marine operations, coastal hazards, health ecosystems and living resources, and human health and safety. With that, as I said, we cover observations from estuarine waters, coastal waters, all the way to the deepest part of the ocean. And the cross-cutting teams that enable that work are our outreach and education work that keep us on check and on a foot on what people needs outside in the Gulf region, from data needs from GCOOS, our data management and communications and cyber infrastructure team, the DMAC team that is who ensures the operation of GCOOS and ensuring quality control, standardization of the data, and very importantly, data flowing on daily basis to where it has to go. So NOAA's National Weather Service and other environmental services at NOAA and other agencies can take the data and run operational models. So we provide the data for free to anyone throughout the region and anywhere in the world. It's all paid with, as I mentioned, using appropriated funds by Congress in the US, so provide data freely available to anyone. But a big user by volume remains to be National Weather Service and other modeling entities at NOAA who need to maintain the operation of existing models and new models that they are developed all the time. When it touches our work, when it touches around the Gulf region, we provide funding to PIs for them to maintain observations. And our key focus at the IUS network centers in high-frequency radars who create coastal surface currents mapping that they are very important for search and rescue operations of the U.S. Coast Guard, but also in the event of trying to map a dispersal of contaminants in the surface waters. This data is very useful. So it was very useful also more than 10 years ago to map dispersion of the oil spill at the time. So that's what these stations create networks all throughout coastal waters and mapping coastal currents that can be used by anyone. The underwater gliders, these torpedo yellow light type of autonomous vehicles, they are the most cost-effective way to collect data throughout the water column of the Gulf. What we do is that we work with partners for them to be able to develop missions that they can last from 3 to 4 months of duration, day and night, collecting data multiple times throughout the vertical column of the Gulf. And this data has many, many uses, but very specifically throughout hurricane season, this data is used also by NOAA and other agencies, including the Hurricane Center, to compute ocean heat content that then also translates into studies of rapid intensification of the storms that we've seen over the past few decades. So this data primarily is run, this operation of these missions are run primarily throughout the hurricane season, so the second half of the year. Right now, we are getting ready to summarize our season as the hurricane season just ended, as you know. And we are going to get prepared to, set up what's next for us next year. So typically, we deploy about 10 missions around that number. With that and the duration of these missions, I mean, we were able to cover a good portion of especially the deep parts of the open Gulf. The moorings and these are the fixed stations that they are from a pier to other fixed stations throughout estuaries and coastal waters, but also offshore platforms. We do have a large project that I'm going to show to you next about how we leverage also the platforms offshore to collect more data. They also include the buoys as well. And then this data supports the models and because they build long-term time series. So this is the bread and butter of oceanographers developing models and setting up models and validating models. And so those models can be operational and continue to run. These regional associations, such as GCOOS of the Integrated Ocean Observing System, many years ago expanded their work from physical oceanography to other types of oceanography data. And so biological data and biodiversity data has become also very, very important for us. So we are funded by other IUS projects and programs of NOAA, such as MBON and the Ocean Acidification Program to collect ocean acidification data, biodiversity data, harmful algal blooms data, sargassum data as well as part of our work. So let me show you a little bit about some of our current projects that they are developing new developments. In recent times, Gandalf, it's an autonomous vehicle that specializes in gliders, but also maps autonomous vehicles of other kinds in the Gulf region that pilots can use to develop their piloting plans for these vehicles. and to track them and to also compare their data that it's been observed with other sources of data such as Argo floats and other stations. And so we've been running Gandalf for almost a decade at GCOOS now, and it's very popular. A number of, all of these pilots basically in the region, in the Gulf, using this tool as the public tool to disseminate data that we also share and funnel to the data assembly centers at NOAA. And Gandalf recently went through a change and developed an agentic Gandalf that it's now using AI for you to ask questions based on the mission itself, but also the data that it's being collected. So if you want to try agentic Gandalf, you can ask questions about the existing vehicles, past vehicles. This tool has been developed by Bob Courier, one of our data managers at GCOOS. And as I mentioned before, in 2025, we sponsor 6 glider missions throughout the Gulf with our regular funding, plus deploy additional 3 gliders owned by the Navy that also GCOOS Regional Association supports that work and expand and the number of missions that we're able to have in the water. And not only that, we have a number of additional partner contributed missions that they are very representative and they also very relevant because they expand all the way to Mexico. So we have partners in Mexico who are also collecting similar data, helping us understand the Gulf as a whole system. This is the NTL project that I mentioned before that collects data offshore with equipment mounted in all rig platforms. So these the NTL stands for Notice to Leases, which is a requirement from BSEE, an agency from the Department of Interior, that requires the exploration and the producing of oil to keep awareness in the conditions of the ocean, and to be able to shut down operations if the conditions become too rough for the drilling phase specifically. So this data, which is collected via ADCP, so underwater current vectors being generated throughout the water column that provides the awareness to the operator needed for them to understand if the current is above 3 knots of speed, and therefore the operation might be compromised. So this is an operational service in which the operator puts the equipment, sends the data to GCOOS, GCOOS standardize it and put it all together with the other sensors throughout the other platforms and provide a whole picture for the region throughout the central and the western Gulf and planning areas of Boma Bessie, where all it's been explored. So this data, it's a resource for the operators to keep them safe and to keep infrastructure and people definitely on the safe side. Also, very recently, one of our data managers, Felimon Gallanillo, developed this regional model handler, which is another viewer for us to be able to plot regional models, operational models that perhaps there's no an outlet within the region to be shown of these larger models or regional models, but also smaller models that might be just covering a portion of the coast or certain estuaries, in which the PI might not have the capacity to provide an outlet for operational products on daily basis. And so we're offering that capacity and the opportunity for these PIs to approach GCOOS and to have a conversation with Felimon and be able to plot these models that they've been developed or they are in testing phase. Some of that, it's the service that the model handler will be providing throughout the future. Another project that we started last year in 2024, it's the GCOOS Marine Heatwaves mapping project. Motivated by the idea that heat waves are becoming more often, coming more often to the Gulf, and that we don't understand them correctly. And the global data that is produced by NOAA, it's at a scale that does not necessarily allow us to understand details of certain regionalization of marine heat waves. We started developing this project using our own data and additional sources of actual data, not satellite data, but actual observations in the Gulf, and develop a mapper to map heat waves that are detected by buoys and other sensors throughout the Gulf, and also develop a series of fact sheets in English, but also in Spanish to show the potential impacts of heat waves throughout things that humans care about. So our lives, our resources, and the things that we might challenge us being in the water. So this project is going really well. It's our partner. We're developing in partnership with Dauphin Island Sea Lab in Alabama, and that project is going really well. By the end of this year, we should have this funding year, which will end but for us in June, we should have a full operational website, and the fact sheets are all published and developed, and also there is the opportunity for us to keep organizing webinar series to create more awareness and gather more information about the impacts of heat waves in the Gulf. We also have biodiversity focus projects funded by National Fisheries Service of NOAA. So two of those atlases are one for marine mammals, it's called cetacean, and the sea turtle atlas covering all 5 marine sea turtle species in the Gulf. The cetacean project covers about 12 species that they are the most of most interest of the restoration planners, Restore and the Open Ocean TIG of the restoration group. So these projects, we are in year 2 and 3 respectively for each of these projects. We've developed ArcGIS hub-based platform for data to be cataloged, and so Cetacean has about 200 individual data layers useful for and guided by the needs of the planners, and C2 Atlas eventually will have much more data. This is a longer-term project for us that will eventually integrate state data, academic data, also federal data, and develop more threats analysis for sea turtles throughout the Gulf. So these are more GIS-based projects that we started 2 years ago, and they are going really well. I mean, Cetacean, recently we checked that it had more than 1 million views throughout the last 12 months for this particular project. So a lot of interest on, a catalog of data layers for each of these biodiversity groups. We also manage together and with funding from the NOAA's Ocean Acidification Program, the OA program at NOAA, what it's called a CAN, a Coastal Acidification Network. In this case, it's GCAN, the GCOOS or the Gulf Coastal Acidification Network. GCAN, its mission is to provide awareness and information that translates scientific findings into what potential impacts might be possible through acidification waters, acidic waters in the Gulf. This network has also been run for a number of years, about 7 years now. It's managed through a steering committee, and we have a chair of the steering committee who provide guidance of what data is relevant for us to share with communities, and think of those communities could be shellfish growers or other coastal and shellfish fishermen might be interested on impacts of coastal acidification. The members of the steering committee are very active in coordinating with other CANs in other regional associations of IUs, so all the way from the Caribbean to the Southeast, all throughout our region in the Southeast part of the US. Publishing papers, synthesis papers. So GCAN has published 2 or 3 large synthesis papers about acidification and its impacts throughout time. Now we have a new coordinator, Natalia Lopez, Dr. Natalia Lopez. She is funded to GCOOS via the National Academy's GRP program. And Natalia now it's bringing new life and more dynamics to the GCAN network. And so she's conducting a meta-analysis of publications these days about for us to understand where we're standing when it comes to knowledge of ocean acidification in the Gulf. We also, I mentioned before that we have a large outreach and education, a well-established outreach and education program led by Dr. Chris Simonelli. Chris has been with GCOOS for about 15 years now, and she has taken our outreach program to the next level, and having the opportunity for GCOOS to collaborate with large networks throughout the Gulf, other leadership institutions throughout the Gulf, and the opportunity to also provide services and opportunities to students and interns. So we offer the Matt Howard Fellowship Award once per year to 1 or 2 students. We're able to fund 1 or 2 students to attend conferences and to coordinate with GCOOS and take the opportunity to, if they want to work with GCOOS staff and learn from them. And we are also able to support some internships and some interns for shorter periods of time. These internships have become also very popular over the last couple of years. We recently had one who developed a story map about ocean highways that was very popular, very interesting for many people. And Chris organizes an annual meeting where we also have a steering committee of outreach and education group. We call it the OAC, the Ocean Acidification Council, and that group it's formed from staff to board members of GCOOS to other GCOOS friends and associates who are interested in providing guidance to what projects should be taken on outreach and education for next year. So this year we're going to Alabama in a few days. And next week we'll be in Alabama meeting for a couple of days. The focus of this year's meeting will be marine heat waves, but also our new projects of our new IRA funded projects proposals. So GCOOS has a number of new projects that we were able to land with the additional funding opportunities last year from BIL and from Inflation Reduction Act as well. So those new projects are deriving new data types that they are new at GCOOS, and that we are just beginning to work with those users as well. So this is the CIROH-funded project that I mentioned at the beginning of the talk. The title is AI Methods for Quality Control of Water Level Observations. The goal and the real world need is that NOAA co-ops, the coastal operational oceanography group of NOAA who manages the tide gauges throughout the coastal areas in the nation, they have gaps in the data in the time series of water level for natural reasons. I mean, sometimes equipment needs to be maintained, clean, or it needs to be replaced. There is failures on powers and things that they need to be taken care, and eventually somebody needs to fill gaps into the time series where the equipment has been down. They take this process very serious, and up to now it has been done manually by more than one person who's reviewing this process and spending time with all the hundreds of tide gauges around the nation to maintain this process. With the emergence of AI-based solutions that we see now, this project will bring a process that was developed at a code sprint or a hackathon organized by IUS last year. And this project will take that and take it to the next level and make it operational and deliver to co-ops eventually a final product, a series of tools, scripts, and other tools, and a workflow, and also very important, a publication to prove that AI can be a solution to do operationally gap filling throughout the network of tide gauges. So very exciting project. Our main partner is Texas A&M University in Corpus Christi, where the work is being conducted, and we have now a postdoc who is basically leading the work that will be completed. Another type of new work that we're just beginning to work with at GCOOS. It's not new to us in the sense that we all work on an everyday basis with acoustic data, but standardizing and developing time series of acoustic data and organizing in a way that is productive and useful for other purposes and decision making eventually, it's another story. So now since last year, we started thinking about how to develop a GCOOS workflow for acoustic data, and it's begin coordinating with IUS and other members of the network that they provide a lot of value. And we jump into a new project in which we are now collecting data led by USF, the University of South Florida in Tampa, and SEMPIT, that they are leading a new project on RISE as well, acoustic data and information. And we are helping them analyze that data and beginning to use that data as part of developing cetacean observations for RISE as well. So very exciting project. Also the opportunity for us to work with RISE as well throughout the Gulf. This is my last slide. This is what's going to keep us busy for the remaining of 2025. There is not a lot remaining, but we still have things to do. So GCOOS is putting together its new 5-year funding cycle through a proposal to IUS that it's being put together right now, hopefully completed by the beginning of January, and that will start a new funding cycle for us on July 1st in 2026. I mentioned to you that we're also reviewing our strategic plan, and we are also developing a new data visualization platform with the help of a contractor. So GCOOS in the future will have a more visual data access and visualization platform as well. Last comment is that GCOOS since 2025, the beginning of 2025, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary. GCOOS started back in Texas A&M University in 2005 with a group of people who start talking to NOAA, like in many other regions, organically how to develop a systemic or observation system for the Gulf. And now we're here 20 years after. We will continue this celebration throughout next year in 2026. We're hoping to have our in-person meeting in the spring next year in April. I'll keep you posted. Hopefully you can join us. And with that, I'll stop here.
Thank you, Jorge, for your presentation. I believe it was very insightful for all who attended. At this time, we'll open it up for any questions attendees may have. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Jorge. That was great timing and very insightful, as Kaylin said. I was intrigued by marine heat waves. I had not heard of that term before, so I quickly Googled it after you mentioned it, and I realized there's heat waves of water, all types of water bodies. I wonder if you can, and you may not be, you're giving an overview of everything, but I wonder if you could comment a little bit about marine heat waves and how some of the things that you're looking at might be translatable to river heat waves or reservoir heat waves or other types of lake heat waves, things that might be in the translating from the areas that you're looking at into the coastal areas and upstream into the areas that CIROH is really focused on. Might there be some things that could be useful for us to consider in that, which is a new thing for us. I don't think we've got any research going on in heat waves and water bodies, but certainly I think with some of the stream temperature modeling, there's possibilities. So wondering what your thoughts are about that
Well,
marine heat waves.
For us, we start thinking about developing products for using certain thresholds that they are common sense. I mean, that they've used throughout different questions that people has about working in a body of water like the Gulf, a basin like the Gulf, such as salinity, temperature. I mentioned, for example, our work in the currents with the oil and gas industry, that they are measuring the currents, and that comes to us, and we provide a bigger picture of what is that state, those conditions throughout the Gulf. And heat and temperature being one of the basic ocean variables came to mind at our discussions as one of the basics opportunities to understand, how things are changing, the environment is changing globally, and developing potentially new baselines for us to when we start thinking of managing the Gulf. So marine heat waves has been a buzzword, but also something that we've seen that it's true, not just a buzzword. And I keep telling people that when I start working in the Gulf region 15 years ago, we were mostly all of us thinking of sea level rise as the main driver of change for us in the Gulf region. Now I think heat waves are a different thing that will add to that conversation and becoming a very similar issue. Until we started looking into time series that our own data indicated from buoys and sensors deployed throughout the Gulf, we were able to see that these heat waves are persistent and chronic throughout the Gulf. And in some cases, we thought that it was just a matter of 2 or 3 days. But no, these were waves that could last several weeks, and nobody knew. I mean, I bet fishermen, they start thinking why, patterns of fish catch and have been different this year or next year or something like that, but nobody knows exactly why. Well, now with this, by us implementing the standard, I mean, the international approved algorithm for marine heat waves, now we're able to map this and be able to provide. We're not yet providing any alerts, but the idea is that in the future we could take the tool to actually develop an early warning of when heat waves are beginning to develop, because as I said, some of them, they just don't last 2 or 3 days, which was the initial thought. But now we see that some of them, they last and persist for a week or two, which could be devastating. And we're not the experts, and it's not up to us to make that call, but providing the intel of what conditions are changing and staying and persisting for a certain time. So that's what we are doing at GCOOS. And in the future, as I said, I mean, we would like to move to other parameters. Salinity could be a different one. Hypoxia, so oxygen could be another one in the Gulf. We're definitely already working on a current speed. And for us working in the open water in the Gulf, the large and semi-global, I mean, driving currents such as the loop current, that they drive everything that we do in the Gulf and what many other people do, to the point that it can be unsafe to work in the Gulf if the loop current, particularly in a certain year, becomes too strong for different reasons. So that's kind of the line of work that we are trying to develop at GCOOS over the next few years. But to your question about if this same concept could be translated to lakes and rivers, I'm pretty sure, I'm not the expert, but I'm pretty sure that this is not new for many other people, and there's people working on developing a standard algorithm. We use a standard algorithm that has been published by NOAA and used by NOAA, and there's some variations throughout the, I mean, in global basis. I mean, but in general terms, for operational products such as the one that NOAA produces, there's a NOAA marine heatwaves satellite-based product. We are trying to stick to the standards. But part of the project and the reason we have an academic partner such as Dauphin Island Sea Lab is that we want to understand if there is any good reasons for us to modify that algorithm and make it a regional relevance. So I can think that, to your point about rivers and estuaries and rivers and lakes areas, there will be all kinds of good reasons to develop more regional studies.
Thanks. Yeah, great answer.
And Jorge, you had a question in the chat from Mohammed, if you have a chance to read that to answer him.
Certainly. That's a very good question. It's also a research question in terms of, I don't think I have an answer. So it's something that will be worth looking into. The high frequency radars using high frequency radio waves rely on a certain level of texture of the water surface, meaning certain level of waves, and elevation and variation throughout the water surface to actually map the currents. They can also be used to map the height of the wave. But once you start stretching the uses of high frequency radars, you need to have these more oceanic conditions to make it really useful. You have, at least in the Gulf, a height of half a meter of a wave to be able to generate currents. So in this estuary, in the back of the estuary where it meets the fresh water, the inflow meets the estuary, that will require that there is some level of variability for you to be able to use them to map currents and waves. If it's an area where you don't have wind that generate waves and currents, it becomes more and more complicated to use. So this technology has some limitations. That said, there are high resolution, high frequency radars that work in a higher frequency that they're able to create higher resolution mapping of the currents, and those are the ones that we have installed in Galveston Bay. So our PI named RATES Inc. RATES is an organization established in South Texas. It's a non-for-profit organization that they also, throughout the years, specialize in environmental studies, but also including ocean instrumentation, such as radars. And they have and maintain for our network 3 radars in Galveston Bay and 2 in Sabine Lake in the Texas side. So if you're interested, Mohammed, to look into that data it's available. And those will be the radars that I recommend looking into, either those 2 in Sabine Lake or 3 in Galveston Bay. Those are high resolution. They have more probability, and there's bigger chances that data can be created for water masses and currents and waves using those. We plan to keep installing more of those radars, by the way. The University of Southern Mississippi has two in the Mississippi Bight to the west, so closer to Louisiana. Their USM also manages three of those high resolution radars in the Bight, in the western area of the Bight. And we are also interested on keep using those because they are really handy and useful for poor pilots and for navigation safety in coastal areas. So in the future, it's possible that more of that data could be available.
Does anybody else have any more questions for Jorge? Go for it, Steve.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity for another question. I'm interested in the water level QC project, Jorge, and I realize it's just getting started and going. I'm wondering if you've looked into, or if the team has looked into things that the USGS does for their corrections of their stage, river stage monitoring and flow monitoring, and how there may be some interoperability in terms of techniques and so forth. Is there any transferability of those methods from rivers to coastal to rivers and so on?
That's a very good question, Steve. But unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the process that USGS might follows for those stations and for that data type. I can only imagine that the group that it's advising the project, because we do have people from co-ops, with the science group of co-ops who are advising this project. And so the idea is that the postdoc that, by the way, just started this week, finally, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's official. So we'll visit even the offices and gather all the knowledge that what is the state of the art for that process, and not start from scratch and take it from there. But I can only assume that they will look into what USGS has developed.
Anyone else? All right. Well, on that note, thank you again, Jorge, for your time. We greatly appreciate it. And we're very delighted to have you today. And we look forward to the next R2O2R webinar that we will be having in January. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Kelly and Steve. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Jorge.